Hey, it's Anna. Welcome back to my channel. I want to talk about book clubs because I just started one with a friend and I haven't even started the book and we're meeting in like 2 weeks. So I want to kind of talk about how to create your own book club, what it looks like, reactions to our first meeting, and also kind of reactions to the first book that we chose. So very excited to talk about all of that. And I'm curious to see how other book clubs are structured too. So definitely compare yours to mine in the comments, and I'm just curious to see everyone's thoughts. The start of our book club, the Always Booking It book club, is that my friend and I, Amy, were just both feeling kind of lonely. I live in a pretty rural place, and sometimes I can go a week without seeing another person that isn't my husband. So I really wanted to connect with other folks that loved reading, and I know I make book content, but it's different than being able to actually talk to people about a book. So my friend Amy had suggested that we can start a book club virtually, and we have 8 members, and it's exciting because we have 3 out of the 4 time zones in the US where the members are from. So it's not just localized to one place or just one of our friend groups just merging over to the book club. It's really exciting, and it's mostly people that we know from our book social medias. And Amy is very numbers driven, so that was really exciting to see her spreadsheet, which I'm definitely going to highlight once we have the first book filled out. And she was also very logical about how we pick a book. The goal with our book club is that nobody has read the book that somebody else is suggesting. So the very first thing that we did was, after getting the members together, we, in a spreadsheet, wrote down books that folks wanted to read. And if somebody had read the book, they would just put their name by it, and that's not a book that we would read as a book club. But that did lead to conversations about getting different suggestions for TBRs. So that in itself led to a good conversation between us as well. Then, once we saw which books really nobody had read, we put it in a randomizer, and then a book was chosen. And the goal is, since there's 8 of us, that everyone is going to have one of their books picked before somebody has 2 of their books picked, so that it's pretty fair across the board. So our first book that was chosen this month with the randomizer is Rebecca Yarros' In the Likely Event. I really thought Rebecca Yarros' debut was Fourth Wing. I did not know that she was more of this contemporary romance writer, so I'm really interested to read this one. I don't know anything about it. Amy did put all the synopsises into our spreadsheet. I didn't read it, and I don't think anyone is surprised by me saying that. So with all of the book club books, though, I do want to own them physically. I also want to tab all of the books, just because we're not meeting for another 2 weeks, and I feel like I'll have some thoughts that I want to share, and I want to make sure that I have, kind of all of them in order. I feel like I did a good job kind of matching the cover with these colors, so I'm pretty excited to tab it. Let's see what this book is about based off the back. Is it a second chance if you've never had a first? When Izzy Astor gets on a plane to go home, she isn't expecting much. It's the usual holiday travel experience. Busy, crowded, stressful. Then she spots her seatmate, who is anything but ordinary. Nate Felon? It's spelled Phelan, but I feel like I'm saying it like felon. I feel like I'm definitely saying it wrong, but it's okay. We digress. Nate sports dark hair, blue eyes, and a deliciously rugged charm that Izzy can't resist. Their connection is undeniable. Izzy never believed in destiny before, but now she does. Just 90 seconds after takeoff, their plane goes down in the Missouri River? What? Okay, their lives change, they change. Nate goes on to a career in the military while Izzy finds her way into politics. Despite a few chance encounters over the year, the timing never felt right. Then comes a high-stakes reunion in Afghanistan where Nate is tasked with protecting Izzy's life. He'll do anything to keep her safe and everything to win her heart. Okay, as you can tell, I clearly had not read that description before. When I looked at the cover, I thought it might be about a flight attendant and a regular traveler, because there's a plane. But I was wrong. So I want to try, reading through this book, giving not only my thoughts on Rebecca Yarros' writing, but then reflecting on how we discuss it in the book club. So this will be kind of like a 2-in-1 video, I guess, looking at book clubs and whatnot. With our tabs in hand and the book, let's find a pencil and get started with reading. I have 2 weeks to read this, so we might have daily updates. I'm not 100% sure. It's just going to depend on how much reading time I get, and then it'll be really interesting once I finish this, because I feel like I'll be more inclined to pick up Fourth Wing and then potentially compare the two at some point. But let's focus on In the Likely Event and getting ready for book club.
So I just finished reading about 70 pages of In the Likely Event. I read about 10 pages yesterday, 60-ish today, and today is the second day that I've been reading the book, so I feel like we're making good progress. I really like how my little annotating is looking with this book. I'm not really annotating anything super serious. I am more just trying to catch reactions or quotes that I think would be interesting to talk about for book club. So no color coordination, but I think that's going to be good for me to go back through and reread before doing book club. So really liking that so far. And I really love authors who can give me enough of a description of a book to get me hooked in, but that doesn't take me to like page 100 of the book and we're still working on stuff that was talked about in the description. So the description for In the Likely Event, I think pretty much like page 50, everything has happened that happened in the description, which I think is really interesting because then the rest of the book, obviously you don't fully know what's going to happen. There are little hints here and there. It is between the two time periods that were talked about in the description, which is the plane crash and then meeting again in Afghanistan. So those two time periods are the ones that we've been sticking in. I don't know if we're going to get more or not. I feel like there's hints to other time periods that we might get, but I think it's really interesting so far. Again, this is my first Rebecca Yarros book, and I can definitely see how her imagination can get her into more of that fantasy realm with Fourth Wing, and I feel like this is making me even more excited to eventually read Fourth Wing one day. I also think that In the Likely Event is going to make a good book club book because I feel like there's a lot of points to talk about. There were a lot of, even just in the 70 pages, I feel like there were shocks and moments that I definitely want to talk about and ask if anybody saw them coming or when they saw certain moments coming. So I feel like this is going to be a really good book for discussion. And of course, I'm super busy this weekend. We have a concert and a Senior Olympics event, and the concert is in a different state, so a lot of traveling, but it should be a lot of fun. And hopefully I will get a little bit of reading in between. I'm hopeful that the next clip will be of me reading somewhere. That's kind of my goal. I have less than 2 weeks to finish the book. I'm hopeful to finish it a week before book club, and then that'll give me some time to process and prep for book club. So fingers crossed, we'll see. All right, hello. It is technically the fourth day that I'm supposed to be reading. I didn't read anything yesterday because my mom and I went to the Senior Olympics and she got gold in both of her events, which is so exciting. And I drove us a total of like 6 hours and then I had to drive back another hour. So I was very tired, and today I just woke up kind of sick, not really feeling myself at all. And I had a ton of work to do, but now the day is kind of winding down. So I'm really excited to keep going with In the Likely Event. I have read more since my last talking update. On day 2, I think, I read quite a bit more of In the Likely Event. There is another time period in here, which is kind of nice because we already knew there was a 10-year gap of time between their relationship, so it's kind of nice to see more of the in-between time. So I'm on page 129, and book club is meeting in a little over a week and a half, and so far we have a group me for book club, so that's how we communicate. And there was some conversation going on about like, oh, who has started the book, who hasn't, and it seems like the majority of people actually hadn't started the book yet. So far I've only seen one person that has finished it, so I'm not feeling as behind as I was. I definitely think it'll be interesting going forward to see if this is a trend that just happens with our book clubs. I'm curious about other people's book clubs, if they're waiting for the kind of last minute to read their books, or if it's not exactly the first book they're picking up this month. I feel like I definitely get waiting till later in the month to naturally remember the book, but I'm really hoping my annotations are going to help me in case I breeze through this in the next few days. My goal is to try to read for about 2 hours every night during the weekday. That's always like my standard goal. And right now, this is the only physical book I'm reading. I just finished my other physical book, so this is going to be my focus. I hope to get at least another hour of reading in tonight if I feel well enough, and then I want to definitely get more reading in tomorrow. So far, I am really liking this book. I feel like each of these little tabs is something that I could talk about or bring up, so I feel like this is going to be a really good book club book, and I can't wait to continue to see what happens in this book and then be able to talk about it during the book club.
All right, y'all, it's the day of book club and I did finish. I should have read this faster, but what you gonna do? So as we can see, I just left some tabs about, some quotes I could think of talking about, some different talking points to bring up during book club, depending on how the conversation goes. I want to rate this before book club and then rate this after and see how it affects it, because obviously we should all have our own opinions, but sometimes when you talk about books with other people, I feel like it affects your rating because they bring up different viewpoints that maybe you didn't necessarily think about. So I'm gonna say for me in here, I am gonna give this like a 4 out of 5. And I feel like I've had a lot of 4-star reads for the month of September. And this is gonna be 4 stars, mainly because the stubbornness of the female character, I think was just a little too extreme for me personally. And I feel like that stubbornness got in the way of a lot on both main character parts then. Like their stubbornness was just, I feel like, too much. The only reason I'm not faulting, I feel like, the male main character for the stubbornness as much as the female main character is because a lot of this book takes place in a war zone and the female main character is there on like a politician side, but the main male character is there because of special forces and because he's more trained to be there. So they're both very stubborn in this war zone, but one, it's literally their place of work. One, they willingly put themselves in a war zone without any type of training and needed force protection. So that's kind of where I feel like the differences lie. However, by the end of the book, I did think that the main male character was more irrational than the female main character. So I feel like they both had their faults that to me were just a little bit too extreme. And that's why I think this was a 4 out of 5 stars. But I did think it was very fast paced. I'm curious to talk to somebody, I guess, really in the military and seeing how this would compare. I mean, I don't think I could talk to a special forces person, but I feel like that is something, that would be interesting. I don't know if anyone in our book club has a background like that or whatnot. I personally don't. So that'll be an interesting point to see who brings that up. So I really like my tabs. I think the color goes really well with the cover. The tabs and the cover I feel like looks really nice. So I am really excited to talk about this. I hope that everyone can make it and everyone has a chance to share their thoughts. And then we're also going to be picking our next book club read, I think, tonight. So that's going to be really exciting to see, if you're looking to start a book club, does this randomized picker really work? Are we going to have 2 romance books in a row? What's it going to look like? So on to book club. Okay, so it's 2 days after our book club meeting for In the Likely Event. We decided to do rankings based off of like writing style and storyline and everything like that. We all rated it fairly similarly. Nobody outright disliked the book. I think overall the biggest problems that the group had with it was that it was almost too short and we wish it was a little bit longer and more drawn out. I hadn't read Fourth Wing. Everybody else in the book club except one person had, and they were like, yeah, I really liked how much longer Fourth Wing was. And I thought Fourth Wing was like about 350 pages? No, it's like 500. So I can definitely see how that's different. This was my first Rebecca Yarros book, so I did enjoy the writing. I, again, didn't really like Izzy as much as a character. So for this first romance book, I feel like it went really well overall with the book club, and I really liked my tabs. I think I definitely want to, for upcoming book clubs, be a little more intentional with my tabs and leaving notes by them. I did actually use my tabs when talking in the book club, so I felt really cool about that. And we have our next pick, which I wanted to show you. The next pick is The Hanging City. These are the tabs that I am going to go with. I feel like they match pretty decently well with different aspects of the book. And this is more of a fantasy book. So with our book club, being able to see everyone's different picks and different genres that they want to read, I think is really exciting. And since we're doing it randomly, the person who wanted to read this book is not the same person who had chosen to read In the Likely Event. So we're going through these cycles all together, and our next steps is just setting up a day when we all can meet and then obviously reading the book. It's about the same length as In the Likely Event again, so another 350-ish page books, and I'm super excited to get into it. The actual book club discussion, I mean, some of us were on there for 3 hours. I think we just really wanted to connect with people about books. I think book club is really fun, and if you have more questions about specifically setting one up or whatnot, I know I gave little bits of explanation in this video and looking at how our full book club cycle works, but I would be definitely happy to talk in detail if you would like that. So on to The Hanging City for the next book club pick, and I'm excited for you all to keep watching what the rest of the year kind of looks like for my YouTube channel, because right now I don't know where it's gonna go.